the managing, I'm the, also, in addition to being the president and CEO for Dan Bar for Life, I'm the managing director for the Premier Weight Management and Wellness Success Program, as well as the medical director for RN Drip, our nurse driven infusion company. So today we're going to talk to, like Dave said, talk to you about gut health and its intersection with chronic metabolic disease or chronic illnesses, a lot of them that we face today that's driving up the cost of healthcare. So we're going to talk about things that you should know and also things that you can do. So Dave, go ahead.
Okay. All right, so the agenda for tonight, one is the 80-20 rule. And we're going to talk a little bit about that as it relates to health and what that means. And then food sensitivities and intolerance, a very important piece for you to understand tonight. So if you want to get a notepad, I suggest you get a notepad and your pen, because we're going to be sharing a lot of information on this call over a short period of time. Inflammation and its consequences in our body. Dr. Dana will talk about the importance of inflammatory conditions, the GI tract, how powerful this is. This is your gut, the complex system that exists, and how does it really work? And then we're going to talk about ways to approach the gut and evidence-based science that has been evolving over the years. And there's some new science that came out recently that we want to share with you to get to the root cause of diseases, chronic diseases, and other conditions that many of you on this call tonight might be experiencing and trying to figure it out. And so who better to talk about some of this stuff than a Johns Hopkins trained bariatric surgeon, a gentleman who was microbiology in undergrad, will understand the cellular level, and then also critical care when you get shot or you get into really trouble health-wise and you have to go to a hospital. He's the guy that you normally see to save your life in that emergency room. So with that, we're going to talk about some metabolic health solutions that Dr. Dana and I are going to share. So that's our roadmap for this evening. And at the end, we hope to have some time for Q&A so you can ask questions of us, and we'll be hopefully able to help you understand a little bit about what we talked about here tonight. So the first is nutritional science, okay? Let me just start off talking about some things that we all know. Well, we have to eat food, right? There's food that we eat. There is, what you want to know about food that we're eating and have been eating for hundreds of years. There are food intolerances and delays in hypersensitivity that are reactions that are real. And we're going to talk about it and let Dr. Dana expound upon that. Certain foods can trigger inflammatory conditions, right, that you need to know about, and chronic metabolic diseases. So we're going to really get deep into that and let you understand what's really going on with your body. And then the gut is complex, as I said before, which allows for food nutrients to enter the body. But again, you have to be careful about how that works and the bloodstream. So we're going to talk about that, why there needs to be this tight junction in the stomach, and you need protection from metabolic diseases. Then we must begin to address health issues by identifying and eliminating the root causes of these diseases. So you can't use synthetic medication and believe you're going to fix the problem. You're only putting, as they told me in cardiopulmonary technology major at Boston University in undergrad, that's a Band-Aid. Dr. Dana is going to give you some real insight as to why you need to get to the root cause instead of putting synthetics or Band-Aids on a problem that you have that continue to manifest itself.
So thank you, Dave. And, that's a good lead into the heart of what, I really want to talk about. And, that is, we're going to talk about these, this new concept of food sensitivities. For years, we've talked to people about food allergies and, IgE and histamine, and we thought that was the limit of understanding. But new science, new data now shows that there's another aspect of food reactions based on your immune system called delayed type hypersensitivities. In short, there are really four types of hypersensitivity reactions. Type 1 is the immediate one that happens anywhere from 0 to 3 hours after ingestion or exposure to an allergen. And that's what we're typically used to. But there's type 2, type 3, and type 4. Type 2 is what we call a delayed type hypersensitivity. And that happens anywhere from about 3 or 4 hours to up to 3 days or 72 hours later. So you lose the temporal relationship. You don't know, or what, you don't remember what you ate 2 or 3 days ago, but it still is reacting in your body. This becomes important because as these sensitivities continue to grow and the body, instead of building up histamine, it builds up something called complement. It amplifies that sensitivity reaction and makes it toxic to your body to a point where you can't tolerate it. And this is where you start getting the bloating and the belching and the abdominal pain, or the fatigue, or the fibromyalgia and aching in your joints and your knees, or even mental fog and a whole bunch of other conditions that a lot of times we try to explain away. Maybe we're getting older, maybe it was a bad day, but these are reactions in your body. And as you know, Dave was saying, that these reactions are real. And what we want to do is talk about how certain foods that have been traditionally thought to be healthy could trigger this inflammation in our gut, which leads to inflammation in our bodies. And ultimately, what I want to talk about is the connection to chronic metabolic diseases. The thing is, you know, when we think about eating healthy, most people think about eating less fats, less carbs, and decreasing that, you know, caloric intake. So we say eat a higher protein diet, eat, you know, like I said, more balanced diet with more protein. But food sensitivities are immune reaction, IgE mediated immune reactions to these proteins. So in short, there's really not a true healthy diet. There are a healthy food, at least. There are foods that you can tolerate and foods that you can't tolerate. So what we want to start talking about is more of a personalized, customized approach to how you approach human health. And so these food triggers inflammation in your gut or in your GI tract. And when it does, it actually leads to this condition, increasing in a protein called zonulin, which is actually what opens up the pore and allows these antigens to enter into the bloodstream. And when it enters the bloodstream and binds to antibodies in a normal reaction, the body triggers inflammation systemically. And this leads to a lot of the abnormalities in these metabolic pathways that lead to the things that we call chronic disease or out of ease, out of order, so chronic disorders, chronic diseases. But our gut is a very complex organ system, which allows these food antigens to enter in. And this is why we have to have these tight junctions in the gut lining that protect us from these inflammatory reactions that lead to these chronic metabolic diseases. So we must begin to address the issues of chronic health, chronic illness by identifying and eliminating the root causes of disease, just like we would do with a computer program or if our car wasn't acting up. When we just basically treat the symptoms, which is, you know, what we do with medical management, and we don't treat the underlying cause, it allows that same driving force to perpetuate itself. And then the condition gets worse. So we have to escalate medications to a point where something breaks down, and then we have to add sometimes other more aggressive interventions. But the long and short of it is there's no medication, operation, radiation, or anything else that could really solve the problem that we're dealing with, because this is the consequence of inflammation. And most of us are born with a functional GI tract. And a lot of times we think there's something wrong with our gut, but the gut actually works pretty well unless we're putting the wrong stuff in. And when we put the wrong stuff in, as it relates to these food sensitivities, the body, when you're born, and actually in your mother's womb, are introduced to antigens. Antigens are proteins, and they have sites on that we call epitopes that the body responds to, or they identify during like development in utero. And what happens is the body makes B cells and T cell receptors to immune cells against it. And then it actually kills or eliminates that population of immune cells. This leads to what we call energy or tolerance. But this is, again, due to the great global migration and transference of people around the world to different environments. When you follow, like, say, genetics and ancestry, when a person's moved from one environment to the next, they a lot of times lose not only the history, they lose the nutrients in that environment. And this allows the expression of these repressed genes. And then by changing the antigens in the foods that the body is seeing, it causes a stimulation of this inflammatory cascade that actually drives the development of disease. And so a lot of the chronic diseases that we're affected with here in the westernized world, in America, Jamaica, Barbados, the Bahamas, and other countries where people have migrated from one land to the next, is due to the full exposure, not to just overconsumption of fat and carbohydrates, but to other antigens in foods. And we'll talk about this connection between the gut and the immune system and the development of chronic diseases, because now these pathways have been elucidated. So things to consider when you're looking at chronic health, chronic disease, you have to consider excess caloric intake, because again, the body's a metabolic reaction. If it takes in more than the body needs, based on the laws of conservation of energy and mass, it's going to store that extra energy away as fat. But when you overconsume irritant foods, what it does is it causes a reaction in the release of inflammatory cascades that actually blocks insulin's interaction with this receptor. So now your body can't process glucose or blood sugar. Your blood sugars are high. So this leads to it sticking to the hemoglobin, and you have a high hemoglobin A1C level. In addition, these same inflammatory mediators or cell factors, we call them cytokines, block a hormone called GLP-1 or glucose-like peptide 1. So now you can't feel full. You have a feeling of like emptiness after you eat. And so you are hunger after you eat. It also blocks serotonin, so you don't have that feel good. And therefore you want to actually eat something, particularly carbohydrates. And this cascade goes on and on. It increases cortisol and leptin. And so this leads to fat deposition around your waist and drives the inability to lose weight, but in addition to the central metabolic syndrome, central obesity. But combined with a poor diet and then a lifestyle practice where we use food and comfort foods to really drive basically the management of these situations, this kind of psychological eating leads to basically overconsumption of empty calories. And this leads to weight gain and then metabolic derangements. And then also things like too much processed foods. There are things like GMOs, antibiotics, and things like that, pesticides, herbicides, and all these different chemical reactions causes our body to be out of balance. And so, as Dave was saying, if we just treat them with medication, then it leads to the perpetuation of those underlying conditions. If we want to solve the great health conundrum or question, we have to start looking at it more from a holistic approach and looking at the root cause. And so we want to talk a little bit about how does this, process works, starting with the gut, because the gut is connected to, go back, Dave, to that slide, please. And I'm going to just move this real quickly. The gut leakage basically allows toxins and food antigens to enter the bloodstream. And when we keep doing it, it actually amplifies these antigenic reactions. And this causes systemic inflammation that leads to things like diabetes, autoimmune diseases, cardiovascular disease, cancers, as documented in a number of recent studies. In addition, your muscle mass and exercise dictates your metabolic engine. So when you basically put in few stuff, you actually need these cofactors that help the muscles run or work efficiently. And when you have these gut sensitivities, gut inflammation, you can absorb these nutrients, so you develop a nutrient deficiency. This leads to problems with sleep, so you get a lack of sleep, lack of exercise, plus poor nutrition. These are drivers of chronic disease based on a lot of scientific research. So how do we address the root cause of these medical issues using evidence-based approaches? Well, the first thing is understanding that it's not just food allergies, but it's food sensitivities that's connecting to these diseases and conditions. So if you have any of these type of disorders or diseases such as mood swings, excess perspiration, or migraines or headaches, weight problems, water retention, skin problems, dermatitis, contact dermatitis, or asthma, or irregular heartbeats, or irritable bowel syndrome, celiac sprue, bloating, chronic fatigue syndrome, or hyperactivity, ADHD, and things like that where kids can't focus, or bladder issues, or wheezing and runny nose, like simple allergies, you have to start thinking that, hey, this may be a food sensitivity if you can't put your hand on it immediately. This leads to food cravings, it leads to muscle aches, joint aches, rheumatoid arthritis, indigestion, nausea, vomiting, and all the like. So irritable bowel syndrome, inflammatory bowel disease is all connected to these food sensitivity reactions, in addition to things like the metabolic syndrome and diabetes, in addition to cardiovascular disease. Next slide. So the GI tract, again, is actually connected to some 80 to 95% of our health problems, because this is the port by which we put foods in. And, I think it was Galatians, Paul told the Galatians, he said, don't be deceived, God is not mocked. So as we sow, so shall we reap. And a lot of people get it confused because they think that, well, what you put in your mouth doesn't matter. But when you start talking about the physical health, the physical body, what we sow, when we sow food to our physical body, to our flesh, we reap of it these chronic diseases if it's the wrong type of quality or quantity of food. The GI tract is a very complex system, and the way it works is by absorption, but also it has actually IgA, or immune globulin antibody A there. And this antibody runs throughout the GI tract and is in fact the largest immune organ in our entire body, although we don't think about it. So when we eat these foods that our body reacts to, the IgA actually blocks it from being absorbed. But digestion, it actually begins in the mouth, it runs through the esophagus into the stomach, and it continues to break food down as it goes down all the way to the end of the small intestine until you get to the colon. But if you think about this from the standpoint of nutrients, there are two types. There's the macronutrients, which are energy nutrients. This is when we eat, carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. But there's also something called micronutrients, and these are cofactors that the cells use, like transmission fluid and synthetic motor oil and spark plugs, to make the car run efficiently. When your body has a reaction, a hypersensitivity reaction, you can't absorb these micronutrients. This leads to alterations in your health if they're not absorbed, along with trace minerals, other we call phytonutrients like bioflavonoids, like resveratrol and CoQ10 and quercetin and polyphenols, and then another class of agents that are called anthocyanidins, and we'll talk more about that. But then this gut inflammation can develop into food sensitivities and intolerances, and later on into chronic diseases that we'll discuss in more detail than we have thus far. But the GI tract has linkages not only to the immune system, it also has connections to the brain and the rest of the central nervous system. And so this can cause things, like I said, poor memory, attention deficit disorders, headaches, migraines, and other conditions, nervousness, jitteriness that we don't think about. Therefore, we should start addressing the root cause of these chronic health issues by starting to evaluate the response to these trigger foods, in addition to treating the medical condition, managing the symptomatology. And a lot of times in medicine, we talk about the clinical suspicion. So we have a clinical suspicion. So for your doctor, what you have to do is get them to evaluate that clinical suspicion, because 95% is connected to the food health, by evaluating foods that may be triggering the condition that you're presenting with. Next slide. So we're going to talk a little bit how this really occurs. So the effects of altered GI tract And so, like we said, the gut starts off healthy, but when you keep bombarding it with things that it does not actually agree with, this leads to poor inflammatory dietary choice leads to stress and emotions. It can actually be even something like infection that can cause it. Lectins, there are certain foods that are high in lectins that alter intestinal permeability. And this intestinal permeability actually is due to actually a protein called zonulin. Zonulin is actually a part of the GI tract. It's released in response to this sensitivity reaction. It binds to a protein called occludin-1, and then it opens up these tight junctions, and this allows these proteins and these bacterial and other microbial biotoxins to leak across. And so it leads to a toxic exposure. And we call it things like food allergy, but this lack of absorption leads to malnutrition. Dysbiosis means abnormalities in your gut microbiome, and this leads to a toxic overload. Next slide. These things converge to basically ultimately develop an inflammatory condition due to these elevated toxins and antigenic burden. And this, when it leaks into the systemic circulation, it leads to this systemic inflammatory disease, and the systemic inflammatory condition leads to the metabolic derangements that we talked about. So next slide. So what are some conditions associated with food allergies and sensitivities and intolerances due to gut inflammation? Well, like we talked about earlier, just kind of not to read this whole list, but sneezing and skin rashes and asthma and all these acute allergic reactions. But you could also have non-specific symptoms. So things like headaches and trouble sleeping and abnormal menses, hair loss, ADD, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, arthritis, even GI complaints such as IBD or irritable bowel syndrome, constipation, diarrhea, bloating. All these things are related to foods that we're putting in. And because we lose a temporal relationship, we lose that association. But other things that are very common among disadvantaged, underrepresented groups, weight gain and obesity, prostate disease and prostate health problems, but thyroid disease, even Lyme disease, prediabetes, metabolic syndrome, insulin resistance, all these things are related in addition to type 2 diabetes, and maybe even affecting things like multiple sclerosis, scleroderma, lupus. And so I just want you to know this because a lot of times, hey, if you have any of these things, then getting a test to evaluate what may be causing it may be an important next step. Next slide. So how do you do this? Well, it's a pretty simple test by Infinite Allergy Labs, a single stick blood draw, but it starts with you doing a survey and going through that. If you have any of these conditions and you rank them based on a simple scale, if they're frequent or they're occasional, if they're severe, or if they're frequent and severe, then the number goes up. Or if you don't have any of them, then it's a 0. But you go through the symptomatology based on these common presenting complaints. And then you based on this score, you give it to the doctor. The doctor orders this test, this food allergy, sensitivity, toxicity test. So what Infinite Allergy Labs has done, if you look at here, these are allergies. So IgE mediated and histamine. This is what we commonly send to the dermatologists or the allergy doctors, the pulmonary and allergy doctors. Some people get peanut allergy and gluten or gliadin type testing because they have some other thing going on with the GI tract irritable bowel syndrome. And so we know about food sensitivities in a limited fashion, but over the course of the pandemic, Infinite Allergy Labs hired the scientists who discovered these food sensitivity reactions that we kind of generally ignored. And basically they bid out the entire food panel that we'll show you in a little while, so that now you have a full food panel to these IgG antibodies. So how does this work? So you have IgG4, which actually we used to think was causing the sensitivity. Go back up a slide, Dave. But basically what it is a blocking antibody so that you don't actually die from an anaphylactic reaction due to IgE, the initial immediate type hypersensitivity. But the difference between the total IgG and the inflammatory blocking antibody is actually what drives the reaction. So this IgG1 through IgG3, the remaining antibody is inflammatory. In the presence of this complement C3b and C3d, it actually amplifies the reaction 1,000 to 10,000 times, and takes the sensitivity and turns it into a toxicity. So now this person has a sensitivity to peanuts, but they have, if you go down here, a toxicity to goat milk and cow milk. And so if somebody were to drink this, this is the body doubling over, belching, bloating, and, coming and going at the same time, nausea, vomiting. And this is the difference. So now we can identify it as opposed to saying, hey, Dave, hey, this is a healthy diet, go and eat this. Now Dave can get his own personalized profile and then customize his diet based on what not only he has to eliminate in this new concept of food elimination dieting, but if you look at these other areas where it's just kind of white, if you look at the fish section and fruit section, let's go to the rest of these, Dave. And you look at these areas of fruits and, grains, this person may have a little bit of a gluten allergy, but they can eat barley and buckwheat and oats and rye and wheat. And therefore, you're able to now build a diet around what your body tolerates. Not what I say, not what a nutritionist says. It's actually based on your own immunologic profile. So now we can customize and personalize health and wellness and not necessarily personalized medicine. So if we look at the rest of these things, then, some people may even have egg and chicken sensitivities that are mild. So when you continue to eat these are like a foreign infection, a foreign invader, or an infection. So when the body keeps getting exposed, it thinks that it didn't clear it. So then it starts ramping up the antibody levels. And then when that doesn't work, it ramps up the complement levels, and it goes from a sensitivity to a toxicity, so it can actually clear this hardy infection. When the body doesn't absorb it, then the body sends these invaders, these inflammatory cascades out and mediators, and it doesn't find an infection. What happens is then the body says, well, okay, I got to attack something. And so now it starts attacking itself. And this is how a lot of the autoimmune diseases are developing, by basically continuing to eat foods that we don't realize are not good for us, and based on our own genetics and our own immunology and biology. Next slide. So this right here is kind of how zonulin works. So when you eat this food and you have this exposure to zonulin, what it does, it opens up these channels in pores, which are normally sealed, and this leaks across into the bloodstream. Now it binds to these cell factors, these immune cells, these type 1 immune cells that now release, like I say, antibodies. They release tumor necrosis factor, IL-1, IL-6, and causes this wide array of inflammatory cascades leading to chronic disease. So the consequences of elevated zonulin include increased gut permeability conditions, such as celiac sprue, colitis, inflammatory bowel disease, Crohn's colitis, ulcerative colitis, irritable bowel syndrome. Next slide, Dave. So why is it important to remove these sensitivities? Well, more and more people are associating the foods they eat with the symptoms that they're presenting to their doctor with. Food allergies and sensitivities are becoming recognized as a causation of the inflammatory associated conditions, and even vasculitis, cardiovascular disease, strokes. A lot of these things are related to that. In fact, it's estimated now that more than 20% of the world's population are impacted from food allergies and sensitivities, like Dave said. It may be a 95-20 rule, but you're not alone. If you have these non-specific things going on and you want to start looking at your health and wellness from owning it yourself, I'll tell you this as a doctor: we do not own your health and well-being. We are your advisors, we're your doctors. Your health is your wealth, but your health and well-being is your own responsibility. So we want you to become empowered to start taking control of your health by changing your diet, by eliminating these food allergens and sensitivities, along with healing the gut. This is a giant step toward wellness. And as Dave is going to talk about, there are a lot of advances in nutrition science that will help us, because now not only are we talking about eliminating the driving force and now building a healthy, balanced diet, but replenishing that which is lost, because 95% of all chronic disease has an inflammatory component, including things like cancer. And so when we have low nutrients, you have basically inability to protect ourselves from this. So when we have like high vitamin D, for instance, it increases IL-10. When we have these inflammatory mediators like IL-6, it triggers a cascade that sets the body up for the development of all these common chronic diseases, including things that some people may be interested in if you have older parents, but Alzheimer's disease. We talked about diabetes, arthritis, the autoimmune diseases, but neurologic diseases, even pulmonary diseases are all tied to this inflammatory cascade triggered in the gut by these food sensitivities. Therefore, it's important to know your food sensitivities, know your food types, and then begin to individualize your eating plan.
Dr. Dana, great, man. Great job telling us all this difficult news about what we thought for years about nutrition. People would say, oh, I just eat a balanced meal and I'm good. And I just look at them and I'm like, really? No, that's not what we're seeing from all the scientific stuff Dr. Dana, Terry, myself, and many others have looked into. So I'm going to give you a little bit of insight into some of where the science was derived from, okay? So there's a company out west. Nu Skin is a publicly traded company. Pharmanex, these are the scientists. There's a guy in the upper right-hand corner. If you look at him on your screen, his name is Dr. Paul Cox. I met him. The guy in the middle with his arms folded, that's Dr. Joe Chang, one of the chief scientific officers in the company. And Shelley Hester is in here as well. I'm going to talk about some of the science that she did along with the scientists at University of California, Davis campus over the last 7 years. And that's what this call is really driving at. What Dr. Dana shared is very important to provide the backdrop in understanding about our health and wellness. So now you know that the food insensitivities, the things we're eating, people tell you, oh, just go eat some lettuce and red cabbage, and that could be hurting you. That could be hurting you based on that panel that Dr. Dana just showed. So these are some of the scientists. There's 75 of them plus that's hired full-time to look at botanicals, not synthetic, because Dr. Joe Chang came from the pharmaceutical industry, where he told us on a previous call that we had this year that all of the synthetic drugs that are found in the pharmaceuticals starts with an organic product, but then it changes into a synthetic and it has side effects, right? So it serves a purpose, but it's not, as Dr. Dana said, it's not getting to the root cause. So we're going to go through and show you. This is a little bit on the company. 40 years in the business, $2.5 billion in revenues over 40 years, and still growing. The stock is around 30-something, $39 this year. Recent 7-year research by Shelley Hester, which is PhD nutritionist and University of California Davis scientist. This was completed under clinical trial on college kids, 19 to 34 years old. They looked at their diet, they gave them placebo, they gave them this product that I'm going to talk about tonight, which is called Meta, and some phenomenal things happen. One of the processes they use in the manufacturing, and when people come to me all the time and say, hey, Dave, you and Terry and Dr. Dana, look at this. I bought this down at one of these stores, and it's a vitamin. And I look at it and I say, listen, first thing, if they don't use what is called the 6S process, and I'm going to educate you guys on what that is. That is the process of sourcing whatever that botanical is. You have to source it. You have to make sure the selection is appropriate, because you could have toxins on that leaf or whatever it is. You have to get rid of that. The structure of it, got to make sure if you're picking green tea, you don't pick it when it's mature, because the medicinal value, the polyphenols, the bioflavonoids that Dr. Dana touched on are not there. And those are the important things that you need. So you want to get the baby green tea to be part of that product that you're putting in your body. The safety and efficacy is very important for ingesting in the human body, okay? So all these things are critical. And then you look at standardization. That means whatever is in one gel cap needs to be consistently across the board in every gel cap you make in the manufacturing process. And then the substantiation, you have to do that as well. So those are the 6 S's that this company, Pharmanex Nu Skin, goes by. Botanical science, again, it's evidence-based. This is nothing where you throw bubble gum against the wall and see if it sticks. This is not that. This is proven science, validated, and that's what we're going to share tonight. So the age-lock Meta supplement that was rolled out in September, just recently, September 22nd, this came to market. Fortunately, Dr. Dana, myself, and others have been on this product prior to that because we're leaders. This is our business partner. So we were able to try the product. People in Singapore and Australia were ahead of us. They were able to get the product there prior months ago. So age-lock Meta took 7 years of anthocyanin research. You're going to hear this word from Dr. Dana, Terry, and myself for the first time. You look this up and you do some reading because I've sent some of the scientific data to people to read. What is this? What are the facts about Meta? Globally, a small percentage of adults are metabolically healthy. What does that mean? It ties back to what Dr. Dana said earlier. You're missing the micronutrients in your body that you really need. You might have the macro, the fiber you're eating, because a lot of people eating carbs and sugar, but the micronutrients, very important. The cause of poor diets, unhealthy lifestyle, that's key. What we're talking about here is changing lifestyle. Obesity, a lot of people, if you look around since the pandemic and before, a lot of obesity continues to happen. People are sedentary, watching television, not moving. Humans are made to move. No exercise, you need exercise, and you got to cut out smoking and excessive drinking of alcohol. So Pharmanex looked at basically the entire source of these metabolic problems in their research. And what did they find? They found the 2 most powerful plant molecules, which are the purple molecules. They found them to be pretty powerful for our health. And we're going to share that. So one of the things that they discovered, this was revolutionary scientific discovery. And this is now in peer review. For everybody on the call tonight, you can go look it up yourself. Every scientist in the world is being educated on this anthocyanin research that was done by Pharmanex and University of California Davis scientists. Anthocyanins, there are 17 of them, but the top 2 most potent is cyanidin and delphinidin. Look it up yourself. Go ahead and read it. The NIH, after Muskin Pharmanex came out with Meta, they did a study. They did a periodical. They published an article that I have, and I will send to you if you want it. Get it. If you read it, it's a lot of heavy science, but at the end, there's a summary for the average person to understand what Dr. Dana said in the early part of this call, and also how this whole complex biochemistry of the gut really works, and what is found about Alzheimer's, about autoimmune disease. As Dr. Dana was saying, a lot of it is covered in this scientific document if you're able to read it and don't fall asleep. But I love this stuff. What's in Meta? You want to ask, what's are the ingredients? The ingredients found is black rice. If you've never had black rice, you should try to find it. I find it at Whole Foods at times. It's not in abundance, but you can find it at your health food stores. Look it up. We have that all the time for dinner. Black rice has the anthocyanin in it. Black currants also have it, and bilberry. Bilberry have potent anthocyanins. So what they found is that Americans need 215 milligrams per day of recommended daily allowance to get our bodies to the level where the tight junction that Dr. Dana talked about is basically taking the cells in polarity. 2 cells that are epithelial cells that makes the lining of our stomach is just 1 level of cells. It's very thin, but inside of that stomach, your gut is gastric acid. If I take a syringe and pull that out, I can burn a hole in your shirt. Okay, that's how powerful it is. But this one barrier of epithelial cells, they link together, and Dr. Dana showed on that slide where the leakage gets into the tissue, and that's where the diseases come because stuff is sitting around too long in your body. Okay, so this product again came out on the 28th of September. So anyway, let's go to the next slide. So this was formulated specifically for gut and metabolic health. So the microbiome that Dr. Dana touched on, the gut health is optimized by you having this immune health support by taking the black rice, the bilberry, and the black currants in an extract. Basically, it's in a gel cap, and I have it right here. So basically, it's just purple. It's a purple pill. It's just a gel cap with liquid in it. If you bite it, your mouth will turn purple because these are the purple molecules, but you want to ingest it. So the clinical trials provided a dashboard of what they call biomarkers. When they looked at it, and the scientists have showed us this, where it strengthens the GI tract mucosal barrier. So there are three things I want to leave with you that you can do some research on, is polarity in the epithelial cell, the tight junctions, and what is called the barrier function. Those three things are critical because polarity means taking two cells side by side and fuse them together so that nothing leaks through between the cells. The tight junction makes sure nothing leaks. So the junctions are tight. It's like a fishing net. If I go to fishing with a net that has these tiny holes, I will never catch the guppies, the little fish. But if I tighten the mesh, I will catch big fish, medium-sized fish, and all the tiny fish. So all of that, bacteria or the stuff that are toxins, they're called plasma endotoxins. They leach through and get into your body. That's what causes diseases. So they found that the diets that are rich in anthocyanin plus exercise, don't forget it now, your body needs to move. Go out and walk, run, do something. Anthocyanin in your diet plus exercise benefits the human, and now it's proven and in peer review over the last 7 years. So with that, I want to go into, and Dr. Dana and I are going to jump around here a little bit about some additional products other than this powerful product now called ageLOC Meta. We're on it. Terry's on it. Dr. Dana, a lot of our leaders are on it, and customers. Okay, so Dr. Dana, why don't you go?
I'm choosing already to stop eating.
So, yeah, no, Dave, so I think that, yeah, no, I think that, you make a very good point. And the point is that, restoring your metabolic health and gut health is essential to your overall health. But when we're eating these foods and having this gut inflammation, this gut irritation, this indigestion, and all the different names that we call it, we're not absorbing some of the essential basic things they're called vitamins and minerals. And so something Dave taught me when we first met, I thought was very profound, even as a bariatric surgeon. He said, Omar, it's not what you consume, it's what your body absorbs. So there's actually something else called absorption science. And so one of the things to understand is that the food supply is, one, the fruit crops are not rotated. By not rotating, it doesn't pick up the nutrients in the soil, so you lose a lot of minerals. Number two, a lot of foods are processed. When they're processed to overcook, it breaks down the vitamins and the minerals that are in there. So although some people are eating healthy, they may not be getting all the nutrients that their body needs for maximum healthiness and wellness. So in addition to eating a healthy diet, even if you're doing well, which Terry, she's one of the best I've seen, complementing what you're doing to make a complete healthy diet by actually adding products like LifePak Elements, LifePak Nano. Well, what's the difference? They both say LifePak. Nano means small, elements mean elements like from the earth. But the difference is, another way of saying it is LifePak Essential Multivitamin and a LifePak Complete Multivitamin. So what's the difference between a complete multivitamin and an essential multivitamin? Well, essential means basic or partial. So essential multivitamin has 20 essential vitamins and minerals in there. With LifePak Element, they add lycopene, so it's 21. I counted them. But the body actually needs up to 45 different vitamins and minerals. Some people say even up to 60. And so when you think about a complete multivitamin, there are other things like the bioflavonoids and polyphenols, the anthocyanidins, the omega-3s, and things like D-limonene and alpha lipoic acid that are important for DNA repair, in addition to other essential minerals such as boron and vanadium that we don't think about. So basically, although a multivitamin is good for you, it's based on the concept of eating a perfectly balanced, healthy diet to complete that. When we don't do it, we develop a micronutrient deficiency over time. This actually decreases our ability to compensate, and we develop, I call it a lack of a compensatory reserve. So we get an insult, our body can't respond, and then it gets out of balance and out of ease. So we get out of order. So we get diseases and disorders and illnesses because things are deranged, because we don't have the ability to counteract the environmental insults from our own actions, our activities of eating, plus the environmental exposure. When we smoke and drink and put other things that are not naturally healthy inside of our body, this makes it even worse. And this sets us up to develop whether it's liver failure and non-alcoholic or alcoholic, liver disease or lung disease and COPD, or even cancers. All of these things are tied together to all these fancy chemical reactions that happen in the body, leading to oxidative stress and inflammation. We talked a lot about inflammation, but one of the other drivers when you have these abnormal reactions is the production of oxidative stress, or the release of oxygen-free radicals to go disrupt things, to kill bacteria. When we don't have adequate balance of antioxidant to neutralize it, it causes tissue damage, which leads to inflammation. So there's another product to consider called G3. It's from the gak fruit. It's from Southeast Asia, Northern Australia. You can look it up on Google, find it up on Wikipedia. It's a good summation of it. But basically, the gak fruit is what's called a superfruit. It's high in antioxidants, high in vitamin C, and high in lycopene. This neutralizes that inflammation. Like sometimes you have burning in your hands, burning in your joints, or you feel like you get up and go, it's got up and gone in the morning time. This helps to get rid of some of that achiness because it neutralizes the oxidative stress. So the combination of replenishing the micronutrients or supporting a healthy micronutrient environment and restoring the antioxidant systems, plus actually adding something like meta to restore gut health, gut integrity is, another term that gut for these cells being side by side, and then blocking these inflammatory cascades is a good way for everybody to really understand how their body works and how your body can get well. We know that, if you follow 3 John 2, it says that, beloved, above and beyond all things, I wish that you prosper and be in health as your soul prospers. But getting into your spirit, getting into your mind that I want to be healthy, not just accepting a bad diagnosis or being stuck in there. There are things that I guess God can do. We know he's able, but there are things that we can do. And this is about the things that we can do, because when you sow the right things to the flesh, the cells turn over every 30 to 45 days. They can reset themselves. So if you're putting the right substrate in, you got the right building supplies, you're going to build that house strong. But if you build it on a weak foundation of faulty nutrition, intolerant foods, empty calories, and poor exercise, not sleeping, smoking, drinking, you're going to end up developing diseases earlier than you need. And then you're also going to have a worse quality of life. Next slide. So the bottom line is taking a Life Pack Nano as a complete, or Life Pack Elements along with G3, along with Meta, is a basic sound nutritional foundational recommendation. But if you have gut health problems, you're that person with celiac sprue or irritable bowel syndrome, then there are other things like, we call it new biome. So we talked about the microbiome. This is your gut. The normal bacteria actually keep your gut healthy. When you have an imbalance of bad bacteria versus the good bacteria, then those bad bacteria produce these things like Dave talked about, endotoxins, biotoxins, that basically get into your bloodstream, and they cause a biotoxic reaction and cause you to feel sick. This is people with these celiac sprues and a lot of these non-specific GI complaints. So replacing the bad bacteria with more good bacteria, like after being sick, with something like ProbioCC, which is probiotics, but adding this stuff, this new product, revolutionary, along with Meta, another product that just launched is New Biome, which is actually is prebiotics and postbiotics. Prebiotics are what good bacteria eat to produce the products that keep the bad bacteria at bay. The byproduct of these good bacteria are called postbiotics. So these are kind of your surveillance system. When you have inflammation of the gut and your body is not able to absorb, a lot of times you lose the gut villi, which have these digestive enzymes for absorption. Absorption becomes inefficient, you develop malabsorption syndrome, so sometimes adding them back. So New Ease is another product that actually contains digestive enzymes to help start restoring your ability to absorb foods that you enjoy. So as we start rebuilding this healthy diet, if you have GI issues, understand there's a path to redemption. Next slide. Not only for you, but Dave could talk about it, even for your kids.
Yeah, so for the kids, I'm just gonna wrap up because we ran over. So I want to apologize to the audience that we ran a little bit longer than we anticipated. However, if for you, our sons have been on this all their life. Jungle Mall, it's the nutrition balance for children, and then the Mighty Minds helping the brain development with choline, DHA, EPA. So this has the omega-3 in it that the kids need, and they're chewables and they're very good. And again, they're all built by the 6S process that I talked about. If a product on the shelf doesn't have the 6S process and they don't have proprietary technology to make it for a greater absorption, as Dr. Dana said in the beginning, then you might be taking something that's not being effective. All right.
So, that being said, what we want to do is pause right here. We know we've gone long, but we want to give you a chance to ask questions. We know it's a lot of information, but, as I discovered it, I thought it was very important to get it to you because it puts the power back in your hands where it belongs. And we need to start taking ownership of our own health as a community.
So, yeah, let me stop sharing. I want to engage the audience with questions because everybody took time out of your schedule to listen to us tonight. And we want to make sure you walk away understanding a lot of things we've talked about, but we need to sift it down so you understand. And I'm going to try my best to summarize, but I want to see if anybody has any questions first. Don't be shy. Raise your hand.
Or comments even.
Or comments, yep.
Hey, Dave, I thought it was very good information and very helpful. Would love to visit, maybe you all mentioned this, a website or something where I can learn more and trying some of these different options out.
Yes, well, great, Alvin. Yeah, we have lovehowuage.com is our site. When you go there, we're offering a 20% discount today through Friday for the week for any of our customers that want to buy products at the same cost that we buy it for. This is the preferred family cost, wholesale cost, whatever you call it. You can go there and get your product. Now, with each product on Danbar for Life, you can go on Danbar for Life or Love How You Age. The same products are there, right? Once you go into the site, you're going to look at shop. You're going to click on the age-lock meta. You're going to click on this, and it's going to give you all the scientific information at the bottom right of the screen. You click on that, and you will see just about more than we were able to cover tonight. It's all there. And then we're going to look at what Dr. Dana showed. This is the Life Pack Elements, the 20 ingredients, okay? This product is just come in a little packet like this. You take this and you just add it to water every morning, and that's your nutrition for the day, okay? And then you have the product that we talked about, the new Biome. This is your friend. If you ever have a problem, you grab this little packet. It comes in a little packet, but it shows up in a bag like this, and you put it in your pocketbook or on the road in your pocket. If you ever go out to a restaurant, you have some issues, this is powerful, okay? And then you have your new Ease. This is for bloating. This is your friend as well because of the pre and postbiotics that Dr. Dana briefly touched on. We didn't have enough time to go over all this with you, but basically it's all on the website, New Ease. Then the other important thing that Dr. Dana wrote the paper on for vitamin D3. If you go out, I have a copy of the paper he published with a bunch of other scientists. Vitamin D3 in everybody on this call and every African American that we have in this country and around the world, people of color, you need vitamin D, and also Caucasian brothers and sisters, because you're not getting it from the sun. Dr. Dana told me when we met, he came to me and said, David, I'm not into sick care anymore, disease care. I'm into wellness. I want to be in business with you and Terry. That's how we met in 2020. And so when you look at Dr. Dana, he's a different kind of physician. He is well-trained and has a licensed physician. But at the end of the day, what I love about this guy is that he balances with traditional medicine, which I learned in 1978 in college, that you need to match that with your Western medicine to get the most powerful combination. And if you do that, there's a lot. So these products are there, 20% discount. Like I said, the science is there for you to read. And any other questions for us?
Dave, what I'd like to do also, maybe if Dorothy will, because, there's some people who've actually been using it, and I know we're talking from more of a teaching standpoint and presenting standpoint, but if Ms. McAdory, Dorothy, if you can maybe share part of your story, because
Oh, yeah.
last year in June, Dorothy called me, and basically, long and short, we've been working together for a decade, but she's I call mother-in-law by proxy, but like my other mother-in-law, my sister's mother-in-law, and one of close friends. But she was like, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Her husband as well, Reverend McAdory. And basically post-COVID, post-weight gain, post-tired of being tired. And just, you know what, I know what to do. And I know you've learned some things. So, hey, I'm willing to listen. But she went on her own journey, kind of like Dave and Terry, some of the other folks. And it's really beautiful. So if you can share a little bit, that'd be nice.
But Dr. Dana also would like for you to give the audience a summary of Annie after you, Ms. McAdory, have a few words, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure, thanks.
This supposed to be Al?
I just wanted to say hello to everybody and great presentation. It's always good to be on. It's always good for information. And I can't tell you enough about how good it is to feel good. And but it won't just happen. You have to make it happen. And then when it happens, you have to recognize that it's happening. And then what you want to do is you want to do self-actualization, that it continues to happen. And you'll have to do that yourself. And speak to yourself, talk to yourself, and make it happen. I can't tell you enough again about what it means to just stop and think about you. A lot of people we think about, a lot of things we think about, but I tell you, I have a busy schedule and I'm able to move all day long and over into the night. Sometimes I almost miss a day, but you really should, you really should get up and go back to bed in the same day. Okay, sometimes I go a little bit over until the next day. But that's what being on these products, the supplements, I love Meta. I tell people all the time, you need that gag juice to get you going. And just put things in your system that your system appreciates. And it appreciates it. And then you can move in appreciation to God for all he's done. Listen, thank you all for this moment. Love it. And I love feeling good. So anybody who's thinking about a change, because if you've been waking up and if you pass by the mirror, you don't look like you think you want to look, guess what? The body can reposition itself to make some changes, okay? That gut health is important. All right, listen, God bless y'all. Thank you so much.
And one thing I want to interject, the products there'll be a link on Facebook and Instagram for Love How You Age as well, for those that are on social media, want to get access to the products. And for, again, Danbar for Life, Dr. Dana, there is a lot of resources on Danbar for Life that, and we'll give at the end of this call, we'll show you our contact information so that you can get in touch with us. But Dr. Dana, could you give a piece on Annie? She's not on tonight. I don't believe she is, but if you don't mind, summarize for the audience what happened to her since August of 2021 to today.
Well, Annie, is my sister-in-law, and she called me because, she had over the last several years developed a lot of health problems, weight gain, and problems like high cholesterol with a cholesterol over 500. On Crestor, it was down from 599 to 504, and high blood pressure with blood pressure of 210 over 109, and diabetes with a hemoglobin of 12.1. She had, other things like glaucoma with high intraocular pressure, about to get surgery, and hypothyroidism with the thyroid level of over 323. And long and short, she said, "Hey, Omar, I'm calling you. My daughters, my nieces, favorite folks, they said, hey, call him. But hey, I'm dying. There's nothing anybody can do. I'm in class 4 renal failure. My doctor told me, he patted on the chair, said, next visit, I'm going on dialysis, and I'm done." So I've already kind of ridden my wheel and gave away my jewelry, gave my flowers while I was alive. And I am in the process of writing a letter. I'm gonna fire myself before they figured I can't work, before they fire me because I'm an imposter. I can't work half the day. I can't get to 12 noon. My get up and go is got up and gone. And then I'm gonna write my obituary. I'm gonna write it. I'm gonna plan this out myself. There's not anything to do. My doctor's got me on medications and, there's not anything else. And I said, well, what medicine are you on? And she told me, and I said, well, are these for health? Are they for sickness and disease? She said, well, I guess for sickness and disease. I said, right. So what about for healthiness? What are you doing to get healthy, to lose weight and to reverse any of this? What's the doctor telling you? She was like, well, nothing. I said, well, okay, well, we got a lot of stuff we can do because there's even other products like Age Lock Youth that can actually reset the cell. And New Skin Pharmanex actually makes this product. So when you put this ability to reset the cell and put the right stuff in and take the wrong stuff out. So basically with Age Lock Youth, Life Pack Nano, in addition to G3, and later on when Meta became available, that I put her on this TR90 or this program, this kind of structured diet program using the concept of food antigen elimination, but using a high protein meal replacement strategy with green shakes, and then replace what she was eating with healthier food choices. And this other part of the TR90 transformation in 90 days really called a transformation me, because now everybody knows that it may take 6 months, it may take 12 months to get to your real weight goal, but there are products called Jumpstart, which starts the metabolism, and Fit, which actually preserves muscle mass, which preserves your metabolism, and Control, which suppresses your appetite and targets the central fat deposition. And so we put her on the program and she got started and she was very diligent. She went through like the Denbar lifestyle management program beforehand after I kind of educated to lay the right foundation, that this is really about personal empowerment. It's about making a healthy lifestyle and healthy mindset change and managing your lifestyle in addition to your diet and nutrition. And it's an exercise and it's a long-term journey, and bought into this concept.
But
So
hold on,
fast
Dr.
forward,
Dana.
it's 6 months. Let me finish up. But
No, she couldn't walk.
oh
10
yeah, and yeah, she can walk 10 feet without getting short of breath. She said she had cankles because she had pitting edema in her ankles. She had sleep apnea. She slept awake because she said she was afraid to go to sleep because she may wake up dead. And so she basically was just tired as can be, couldn't function, couldn't think straight. And she's a computer analyst, so she has to stay, and she's the manager of quality. So she has to stay 100 steps ahead of everybody else in order to do her job well. And so she was basically gotten to a point where she literally was kind of throwing in the towel, had given up, and her daughters were like, no, mom, don't do that. Please talk to him at least, because Dave and I, we've been presenting and talking about these things and had learned a whole lot. So fast forward 6 months later, or even 90 days later, she went back to her doctor. Her blood pressure was normal. She was down 30 something pounds. Her hemoglobin A1C was down to less than 6. Her cholesterol went from 504 to 174. And her doctor basically told her that these were somebody else's labs and that she needed to go and get her labs done at Quest at an outside facility. So she said, well, hey, look at the top of the lab. Where did it say Quest? What about the address? He said, uh-oh, this is the outside lab. She said, I've never seen anything like this in 90 days, let alone 90 days. I've never seen anybody do this in 4 years. And so turn it around. And so switching everything around and resetting the body, fast forwarded to, July of this year, she basically went from class 4 going into class 5 obesity back to stage 2 kidney disease, class 2 kidney disease. She actually won the corporate step contest by 140,000 steps. So in 40 days, she walked 1,153,000 plus steps after not being able to walk 10 feet. And on top of that, she's lost 84 pounds. Her BMI is now 23.8 from 35 to 40. And she's in a size 8 in a dress that her sister-in-law gave her over 13, 14 years ago. So it's a pretty amazing thing. And, even in the midst of the pandemic, after going through all that, she'll tell you, living some of the best days of her life, and everybody's enjoying the journey. So this is what's possible.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. And Dr. Dana wrote that up, so we can send it to you, the piece that he wrote up of Annie that some of you on the call have received and read, but all the numbers are there. A1C, which is your blood hemoglobin, she was at 12.2, dropped to below 6. Okay, glycoma in the eye was 27. The doctor told her in the eye, I have to do surgery, LASIK, because I can only drop it 3 points from 27 to 24. Guess what? She showed up in the doctor's office, her glaucoma and the pressure in the eye was 18. He said it was not possible with medicine, with the eye drops, and he wanted to do LASIK. And she said, no, 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 no. I'm going back to Dr. Dana. He put her on the eye formula. Look it up on the site. The eye formula has lutein in it. Lutein is from the marigold plant. It's an antioxidant, a powerful one, good for the eye. It reduced the pressure in the eye, no LASIK surgery. And Marie says, I don't have glaucoma any longer. I can drive at night and I don't have that glare. And then her dad, she shared it with her dad who was blind, right? Dr. Dana, her dad could not see her for a while. He was watching television and couldn't really see the TV. Now he has vision to see the TV. He can read from the television. She shared it with her dad. And if she was on this call tonight, she would tell you more about it. But I know we went beyond our time. We normally like to stay within the boundaries of the time allotment that we make. But sometimes we have so much important stuff to share with our constituents. And these are free webinars. Dr. Dana gives up his time. I give up my time. Terry gives up her time, and many others, Sean Edens and others who are part, Dr. Garvin, nuclear cardiologist out of Modesto, California, Dr. James Roberts out of Charlotte, North Carolina, Dr. Bennett in Louisiana. We had sessions with these powerful physicians who are not into just disease control. This is root cause of looking at the source of the problem. And in my summary today, I break it down that a 5-year-old can understand it. The food you eat is not always good for you. You have insensitivities that you need to know. There's a fast test that Dr. Dana can run if anyone is seriously looking into improving their health and they're not been satisfied with what, because you can't figure out what's wrong. The same thing is happening to you. You're having these issues, and if you stick around, it's going to get worse. So we have a panel. If we had time, we would share it, but he showed you the panel with the details. But that can be done offline in a very regimented way that Dr. Dana has shared with Terry and I. And then once you look at that, you figure out if it's goat milk or whatever you're doing that you love, but it's hurting you. And you take that out of your diet, you might find that you're back to a healthy living, and you're like Annie. In addition to these great products that are science-based, botanical, it's pretty powerful. We've been on them for 25 years, Terry and I. And we met Dr. Dana, and he can tell you how we met.
Yeah. So
Any questions for us? Any questions?
Yeah. So I just wanted to I'm going to share my screen for 1 second, just so that you guys can find us and get in contact with us. And this is, one of the, I work with Ari and Drip. So, Ingrid and Phyllis and Joanne, and they're here in Atlanta. They're infusion company, an elective wellness company. arianddrip.com is our site. And so in addition to, the things we've talked about, some people need hydration and infusion of these vitamins to start replenishing their health. Also, because they're nurses, they can draw blood and help. Basically, say for instance, we order the test and you need somebody to, draw the blood and then send it off to Infinite Allergy Labs. We have that, and then working with another company, Advanced Nutritional Concepts. We also have the ability to go over the test with a dietitian, with a nutritionist, to begin this process of food elimination. This is my email address. It does work. This gets us back to Ari and Drip. And so if you have any questions or you need any information, reach out to Dave and Terry, reach out to me, whether it's just getting a consult or getting like a Dan Bar for Life, where we sell our education and training programs on lifestyle management that integrates diet and nutrition and exercise and all those things in addition to behavior modification. This is Dave and Terry's website, and the business Love How You Age, www.lovehowuage.com. This is Dave's and Terry's email address and phone number. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. But we hope that, something that we said enlighten you just a little bit, because we have to take ownership of our health as Americans, as minorities in America, from disparate groups, from people, whether you're in Jamaica, over in Africa, in the diaspora, or down in South America, in India, or, China, Japan, Australia, or anywhere else in the Far East. Understand that this is a time where things are going to get rougher post-pandemic. These chronic diseases are still here, and we can do something about it. But the cost of healthcare in America has gotten to a point where it's going to be cost prohibitive. There is, in particularly talk about healthcare finances, the issue of the sovereignty of the Medicare trust fund. There too, the hospital trust fund is going to become insolvent in 2026. I mean, it's going to exceed its portion of the GDP that's allotted to that. That's what we used to pay for the hospital. So it's going to tap into the supplemental fund, which pays for the doctors in the pharmaceutical industry. They call it Part B and Part D. That's going to become insolvent and run out of money by 2034. And what's coming down the pipes for everybody on, particularly if you get to that age past 54, where Medicare is going to become an issue, or you may start entering into the realm of Social Security. In 2035, they're going to have to tap into the Social Security Trust Fund, and therefore reduce Social Security benefits by 22% if we don't figure out a way to bring down the cost of healthcare delivery, which is a part of the new law called MACRA, the Medicare Access and Children's Health Improvement Reauthorization Act, and value-based healthcare and payment models. So these things have already been enacted in 2015 by both houses, the Congress and the Senate. In 2019, in April, Alex Azar, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, activated this last component called value-based healthcare. So it's real. They're starting to implement these changes that you're seeing, but just understand that your health is your wealth, but it's you own it. It's you, the CEO of your body, and you have to take this ownership, because an investment in you, investment in education in your children and your family, is the best investment that you can actually make. So thank you for joining us. I want to say God bless you all.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Dana, for that additional information. So one other piece, when you get to the website, you have to click on, there's a bunch of titles at the top. Click on nutrition, and you'll see, once you put in the search bar, like, for example, Life Pack Elements, which is your general nutrition. If you don't like gel caps, you take powder, you just drink it, shake it. It's going to turn into the orange color, like the colors on the back of my screen here. It looks like carrot juice. You shake it, drink it, you got nutrition, because you're not eating it. Don't fool yourself. We're not eating enough veggies every day. We're not. So just take this and have it all day long. And then you need your age-lock Meta to tighten the junction in your stomach so you don't have to go to the doctor about any diseases. Okay. Then you take your other products that you have. If you're dealing with glaucoma, try the eye formula. If you're a man dealing with prostate issue, there's a prostate formula, well put together, scientifically proven. And if you have any problems with your immune system, you need to look at the Reishi Max, which is a powerful mushroom that is found in Asia, that has been around for centuries, that has great medicinal properties, but Nu Skin found a way to crack the spores and to provide the best quality product on the market. So that's the prostate formula, Dr. Dana, pull up. And again, slide down, Dr. Dana, and show them the scientific benefits. If you slide down on the bottom right of the page, you will find on every product, anything you want to know about product information. Click that link, please, and voila. Everything you ever want to know beyond what we could share tonight. The ingredients, why it's important, what we have done in research, and then show the periodicals. Those are the scientists at the bottom there. You see all the scientific studies that were done. There they are, right there. Full disclosure, okay? This is not a guessing game. This is real botanical science that impacts the health. There's no way we should be having to take synthetic drugs to fix something or put a Band-Aid over it. Let's get to the root cause, all right? And then for men health, you look at the other products. We didn't have a time to talk about it today, but it's called Age Lock Youth. You want to turn a 66-year-old guy like me into a 25-year-old. I can still run the 400-meter right now. I can do 400 meters. Most guys my age can't do that. All right.
So we're gonna get off right here, but the bottom line is we really appreciate you guys. And we think that, again, this is going to be revolutionary as we enter into this next decade. And so these are the things that are available to you. Reach out. This is not giving you all the information. Contact us. We're happy to work with you in any way we can. Dr. Carolyn Brown, see, we got doctors on here who are already interested who can help guide us. So join us in this movement, like Ms. McAdory and some of the other folks that are on here, our strategic partners, Dr. Stockett, I see. Want to thank everybody for joining us, my nieces and my sisters. Dr. Harris and other folks on. So I just want to thank everybody. I'm going to end right here because we went past the time, but I really appreciate you guys.
But Omar, I think it's important. I think it's important to note, if you're dealing with something very serious and you've been to your doctor, you've tried everything, and you feel you're stuck, give Dr. Dana, Terri, or I a call. We can set up a consultation with you, get you some information like the panels that he showed you. It's going to cost you a little bit of money, but it's reasonable. When you think about what it could cost you long-term if you keep taking synthetic drugs and not getting to the root. And now for the first time, you can find out what the problem, what's causing the problem. Okay. And then Dr. Dana, Terri, myself will provide you, take you down a path and show you these tools and give you the access to them. So now you get to the core of what is creating the problems that you or your loved ones are having. If you don't do that, you're taking a shot in the dark. You don't know. But the science is there for a regimen. If you're not really chronically ill and you want to get your body right, the products we shared tonight and abundance of others, there's over 200 products there. But we only gave you a subset. But the age lock method that just came out, everybody on this call should be on it. And the scientific research said 90 days at 250 milligrams per day will tighten the junction and stop the leaching of toxins in your body that creates these diseases that you keep going to your doctor about. That's key. If one product is the age lock method, people were begging us this summer for the product, and it finally came out on the 22nd of September. It is now available. And believe me, I'm on to my second bottle, soon to be on my third bottle. And I sent it to one of my colleagues. Her dad is on the phone. His name is not Niall, it's Sherwin, a powerful guy sitting in Jamaica. He's on this call. I was just with him a month ago. He is a brilliant scientist. And he is one of his family members called Terri and I today, just before this call, and said, oh my goodness, I just got on your products. I'm feeling great already. It's only been a week. Dr. McAdory told you her story. She showed a little bit. Dr. Dana told you about Annie. We're going to send you, if you want to see the Annie piece that Dr. Dana spent the time to put together, if that doesn't open your eye, I don't know what will. This is real. And we can get Annie on the phone with any one of you to tell her own story, what transpired, because Dr. Dana met Terri and I in 2020. We shared with Dr. Dana. He said, I need your number, Dave Dixon. I'm getting away from sick care. I want to get into wellness, root cause, because I'm a licensed physician, went to the best schools, microbiologist. He's got the credentials. And now he's attracting other physicians to come into play with us. And Terri, an integrated nutrition coach, certified now after all the technology stuff she's done, and me, all this banking stuff is put aside. It's not about that banking stuff I used to do. No, it's about my health and wellness, because Steve Jobs is gone. He was worth billions. We wish he could be here with us. Take care of your health first. It's not what you eat, it's what you absorb. The body has to take in 85% of those nutrients Dr. Dana talked about. And then that's what happens with our products here. not 5 or 10%, and you make expensive urine. Most of people are making expensive urine and they don't know it. They don't. So with that, we thank you again. If no other questions, feel free to reach out. If you have a question, I don't want to leave this call. If you truly have something on your mind, you wanted to ask us in a group forum. If you don't, you have my number, Dr. Dana's information. Call us personally, and I will work with you personally. Terry, Dr. Dana, and I will work with you. Okay? Thank you again. Thank you. And we'll continue to do seminars. And when we do, feel free to join us. A lot of pertinent information.
Mr. Dixon,
Yes.
I had another Zoom call right before this. I see this is being recorded. Is there a place where I can see the first half? Because I didn't get to log on until
Yes.
about halfway through.
Yes, I will get you a copy of the broadcast.
Thank you.
I just love to share my experience as well, Dave, if that's okay.
Yeah.
This is Dr. Harris. I started on I think it's the Nano. Yes,
Yeah.
I've been taking the Nano for about a month. And what I've noticed, my blood work has been really, really great, in particular over the last couple of months with several dietary changes that I made and supplements that I implemented. But with this particular product, what's wonderful is that I noticed my B12 was low. I've been taking a B12 product, a complex. Everything else was fine, but that B12 I learned back in April was deficient. And so that's the only thing I've done. I hadn't been to anyone to get anything. The only thing I've done is added the Nano, and my B12 labs came back in the normal range. I mean, high normal range. So definitely attributable to that.
Awesome. We get a lot of those stories, and so many, it's hard to share them all, but thank you, Ms. Harris, for that insight for the group so that they understand that this, we're excited. When we get on this stuff and the way we feel every day, Terry and I and Dr. Dana and the people in our group, it's phenomenal. What Dr. Dana and Dr. Bennett said, they were looking for this in med school way back at the University of Alabama, and now they met us and they're in.
Amen. All right. Well, if all hearts and minds are composed, we really do appreciate everybody's time and hanging in here with us, but we are going to let you go. So everybody, thank you. If you want to check off, please sign off. If there's any burning questions that anybody has, let us know now. Speak now. We're happy to do it, but we don't want to, infringe on anybody else's time anymore. And again, we can answer questions offline for those who have to go.
We got another doctor on, Edward James, that is in Pittsburgh, a top radiologist. Hey, Ed, you still on?
You're on mute, Ed.
Dr. James.
Hello, everyone. Hello, David.
How you
Hello,
doing,
Dr.
man?
Dana. Hello, Terry.
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing well. Praise the Lord. How are you guys? How are you all this evening? Thank you so much for the presentation.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to thank you.
Yeah. We got Travis down in Jamaica, Travis Shackelford. He's on. We just with him last month before my dad passed, and one of my cousins there on the island of Jamaica. And, really powerful guy, just a lot of great folks on. Dr. Simmons, I'm so glad you were able to join us tonight. We want to do more of these, and we want additional folks. We want other folks to get this knowledge. We're going to continue to bring knowledge.
Relieve us from pretense.
Amen.
Bring us to reality, God. Bring us to the reality of your will.
Okay.
In the name of Jesus.
I'm hosting a friend from the nation of Kenya, and he's a apostle. He is a leader of 18 churches in Kenya, and he has been praying over each of you during this call. He's been praying over you, David and Terry, and over Dr. Dana. And so he's been blessing you with prayer. And I just wanted to share that with you.
Yes, and Dr. Edward James is a physician that's ministering all over social media. So you guys get a chance to check him out. A lot of information.
Receive the praise, Lord.
Praise the Lord. Thank you, David. God bless you. God bless you, Terry. God bless you, Dr. Daniel.
Thank you. We really sincerely appreciate it. And thanks, everybody. You guys really make this worth it. So, man, I appreciate it. Y'all have a great evening. Wish everybody well, okay?
Amen. Good night. God bless.
Good night. Thank you.
Chantel, Doris, I'm glad you were able to join us.
Thank you, David. Very
You're welcome.
interesting, excellent information.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope the whole congregation at, the church up in Queens could be on, but eventually we'll share more.
And Dave, one thing, Dr. Stockett, I think he probably has signed off, but he's working on something.
No, I haven't.
The consortium for Black health and bringing all these resources together to kind of help us to start compiling information that's been done that we can apply to us, because a lot of medication studies don't apply to our race, our group of people and other groups. So he's putting it together under the consortium, but he could speak more for that. And then we're going to get off after this, okay?
Yeah, Dr. Sockett, pleasure meeting you.
Pleasure meeting you. And we're excited about where we're going with this. But the consortium is going to be an opportunity, an avenue, a vehicle in which if you just mentioned how long you have been researching and working in this area, you referred back to when you were in medical school and what have you. It's that audience that we want to give opportunity and direction and support and galvanizing Black health knowledge, where you can have negotiated a relationship with someone who has already started their research, and that and with the lack of either support or politically, most of the breakthroughs and the advances that are accomplished, especially in Black researchers, are owned by the university or squelched by the industry, okay? And so we're talking about putting all of that out of our mind. We're talking about creating a new environment that's owned and operated, okay, for the sole purpose of Black and people of color to share their resources and to share their knowledge, to share and support each other in advancing their research. And by doing that, we are addressing all of like you have tonight, the comprehensive approach to addressing cures and treatments for the major diseases on the population that are most effective. And I mean, most affected by, okay? So that's kind of the overall vision, but I will not be deterred, okay, in realizing that vision. And what it will look like will come from parties like yourself, your team, Dr. Danner, that type of thinking, where you are about moving forward and not be deterred by any other concerns. And I'm convinced that, what do you say? A better mousetrap. We don't worry about where fundings come from. This is, I can even envision the force when the world reckons with what these guys are doing here. Okay, this is the place to go. So we want to have a chat capacity, networking capacity, and any and we're going to have a publication capacity where you can publish your white papers, your theses, or whatever it is. We want to actually stimulate and encourage folks to share their vision, and you add that with your level of intellect and experience to this date. We have the answers. Okay, so
Thank
that's
you.
kind of where Rochelle and I are. We're gonna have a launch session that we will invite all of you to share in, and it will be open season. You know, we're gonna tell you about the vision and the structure, and then from then on, it's gonna be driven by those folks that have the desire. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sackett. Yeah, we look forward to that. We look forward to that.
Yeah, and Dave, last thing I was just going to say for everybody, like this FAST test is a CMS approved test. It's not anything like quote, neither doctors out there practicing, particularly in the functional medicine space, but it's not anything a primary care physicians or cardiologists or specialists, gastroenterologists, endocrinologists can't order. It's approved by most major insurance companies. If you have out-of-network benefit and less than $3,000, and they'll pay for it. And then lastly is Georgia Medicaid. But the bottom line is that the test is available commercially as well as via insurance. And if you're interested, please contact one of us, contact Dave, and let us work with you to start getting ownership by customizing, personalizing your own health, wellness, and nutrition. Thank you. God bless you all. Have a great night. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sherwin. Thanks, folks. Thanks, Jerry. McAdory, thank you again. Aaliyah from Cayman Islands. Paris, Connie, everybody. Appreciate it. Thanks again. Keep you posted. Reach out if you have the need, and we'll get you plugged in. All right. Good night. Thanks, Dr. Dana. Job well done. Always. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave. Great job. Thank you as well. Thanks, Jerry. Good night, everybody. Appreciate everybody's input.